During Super Bowl 49, there were a lot of movie trailers for comic book movies. Comic book movies have never been bigger. But what about the stories that those movies come from, the actual comic books themselves? Some people have been collecting comic books for a year, 10 years, decades. So how do you know if there's a book in your collection that could be worth hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, and others that may be pennies on the dollar?
Captain Bengal's Comic Cove in Pocatello is just one place in eastern Idaho where you can find a walking treasure trove of comic book history and knowledge. Bob Beeson. Beeson is not only a fan of the four-color industry, but he's also an artist, putting graphite to paper to draw his own series, Captain Bengal. Beeson has been collecting and studying comic books for decades, and that knowledge comes in handy when someone brings in an item that perhaps has been gifted or inherited to them.
Recently picked up a lot of comics from a guy whose uncle had passed away. They weren't really valuable, but he had 6 comic book boxes, and it was filled with a lot of things. And one comic in there was, we valued at about $60.
Prices for past comic books can range from a few dollars to thousands of dollars to even a cool million. But there are a lot of factors, like how rare the comic is, to the artist or writer of the book, to what kind of condition the book is in. But be aware, that comic book you found in the attic that you think may be worth millions might not be as rare as you think, like the person who thought they had a book with the first appearance of Spider-Man.
And the first thing we noticed was that it had a Marvel. It was actually a reprint of that comic. So this comic he thought was worth his house, basically, or more, was really probably worth $10 to $20.
But what about comics that you can read on your digital device? Is that helping or hurting the collecting of comics? While digital delivery helps the consumer with instant access and an affordable way to read back issues, it does hurt the local comic book shop because it bypasses the retailer. But according to Publishers Weekly in 2013, sales of comics and graphic novels generated $870 million. That's the largest amount for the industry since 1993, and in January of this year, the first issue of Marvel's revamp of the Star Wars comic broke the 1 million mark. So if you're thinking about getting into collecting comics, Beeson has a few words of advice.
Comic-sized box like this, so you can keep your comics in them. And inside that box, you'll have the comic book itself, and you'll have it sealed in a plastic bag. And behind the comic book, you'll have a thin sheet of cardboard so that it doesn't fold or bend inside the box. Look for number 1s, look for first appearances of characters, and look for certain writers, Stan Lee, Julius Schwartz, certain artists, Neil Adams, for example, and go for what you love. Don't care about what people say is valuable, and if it says collector's item, don't believe it.